Hello, and welcome to Fungcast, episode 2. Today, we have a special guest of Red Flower Fungi, Chef Nick Prieto.
What's up, Funk Straight? Thanks for having
What's
me
up,
on today.
bud? How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. It's nice to chat with you again.
Nice to chat with you as well, man. I feel like, when did we meet? It was 2021,
Yep. Eh,
Canadelic.
yep. That was a fun
Uh,
event. I got to meet so many people in the Myco community for the first time there, which is kind of cool seeing everybody's face. Yeah.
by the way, this is Nick's,
Oh,
company shirt we got going on.
nice, man. Thank you for wearing the shirt. It looks good on you.
Ah, thanks. Appreciate it. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I agree. Canadelic was so fun, and it was super awesome just meeting, you and as well as like other people, just kind of getting together with people who love the fungi.
Yeah, that
And
was
plus, you
yeah, that
threw it down in the kitchen at the after party.
Oh, thanks, man. I appreciate that.
Well,
It's always
to
like
get
it's
together.
always yeah, it's always fun to cook for the homies, and put some food together. Everybody sit down and share a meal, and be able to flex a little bit in the kitchen and throw some nice, tasty, funky stuff together. So
Jeez, you're looking
that
like
was
Arnold
cool.
Schwarzenegger in the kitchen. My guy. But you always got the apron on, so you're always Arnie in my heart.
There you go.
So, bro, um, so fungus, man. I see you. You're cultivating.
Hmm.
I see you doing fermentation experiments. You know, with different gourmet mushrooms. W- what got you into that?
Um, I've loved gourmets for a really long time. I've always been fascinated with mushrooms. I think like my window to them has been the kitchen. So working in some more like fine dining restaurants have early on in my career, I've been able to work with things like chanterelles and morels, some really exotic different varieties of oysters that I'm really only seeing until now. Um, and it was just one of those mysterious things, like where do they come from? Who's growing these? And it's hard to get your hands on them when you're not working in a fine dining place. So I started cultivating myself.
That's awesome, man. So, would you say, did you have mushrooms in your life or via culinary experiences throughout your life, or was this like a later in life when you got I guess seriously into cooking?
That's a great question. I think I've always enjoyed mushrooms. There's kind of like it seems like there's two categories of people, those that love mushrooms and those that hate mushrooms. Like people that just don't want to eat them, they'll pick them off their food and they're like they refer to them as disgusting or slimy. I don't get that. I've always loved mushrooms. I've always loved eating them and cooking with them. And throughout my career as a chef, and now more so like as a cultivator, experimenter, like every time I have an experience with a new mushroom, my relationship with them changes. The capabilities expand. Um, yeah, I've just always been so curious and fascinated by them. They're like alien organisms. You can't treat them like veggies. You can't treat them like plants. You can't treat them like meat. Like they they are their own thing, and
They
and
have
they're
their
really
own
cool.
kingdom at the end of the day. Sorry to
That's so wild. Yeah,
interrupt you, right?
yeah. No, thanks for adding that on. Yeah, they are their own kingdom. They're their own thing. So there's something about them that you just can't get uh, elsewhere. So I love them. I can't get enough of mushrooms.
So I know you have your own brand of coffee, right? Leoncito Cafecito,
Yeah,
right?
that's it. That's it. You got it. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that. I know it's the lion's mane coffee, so would that be also considered as like a supplemental thing to add to your day, uh, or is it just
So
specifically for some flavor profile?
the lion's mane. The lion's mane
Yes.
in the coffee. So we have our Leoncito Cafecito is actually um, It's made with coffee. It's not like there are some mushroom coffees out there
I've
that
had
don't
it
contain,
before myself.
yeah, that aren't. Oh yeah, thanks. Yeah.
It was
Um,
delicious.
so this is actually a Cuban style coffee, which is dark espresso. It's around 75% espresso and about 25% lion's mane. That's our formulation. We're transparent about it. There's a lot of lion's mane in there. So when you make your coffee, this one specifically, Leoncito Cafecito, we really recommend that you make it in a small mocha pot, so that the flavor is very similar to a Cuban style coffee. This is this should be as close to Cuban style coffee that you can get, just with the added benefits of lion's mane to it. I really want to encourage people to replace their morning coffee with it, or if you're going to have 3 and 4 shots of coffee in the morning, make sure that one of them is Leoncito Cafecito. And I've noticed being Cuban, I've formulated a coffee that is Cuban style coffee. Cubans tend to be mycophobic for whatever reason. It's not really part of our culture. A lot of people in my family are just like scared of mushrooms. They don't know how to use them. They'd rather just stay away from them, whether they're culinary mushrooms or mushrooms you see outside. It's kind of like seeing people like ripping them out, killing them. Um, so I wanted to create a product that um, would mimic something that's already consumed on a daily basis, and that there's actually a huge culture behind. So I found a way to sneak the lion's mane in there so that we can start like really receiving the benefits of the mushroom on top of still enjoying the flavor and functionality of espresso.
That's awesome, man. It's an awesome way, to kind of like sneak somebody their vegetables, so to speak, right?
For sure, 100%. Yeah. And I actually I made this product with my grandmother in mind, my abuelita, because she's starting to exhibit some signs of cognitive decline, dementia, and we know that there's a lot of great information out there um, uh, in regards to the lion's mane and its functionality and how it could uh, potentially help us with memory. Um,
Kind of on that note, I would
yeah.
like to maybe ask you another question, kind of in that regards. What do you feel, everybody should understand about, gourmet mushrooms?
Gourmet mushrooms are, so people are now reading these words: gourmet mushrooms, functional mushrooms, medicinal mushrooms. What are they? How are they different from portobellos or button mushrooms that you get at the store? They
I feel
fall under
like,
the same
say,
category.
some of them are in multiple categories, right? I
Absolutely,
feel like,
absolutely.
if not most of them, depending on, sorry to interrupt, just like what mushroom it is, where it's at in its growth, uh, and yeah. So, but no, please continue.
Thanks. I think that so gourmet mushrooms are those that are like absolutely delicious and they're edible choice mushroom, delicious. Um, they also bring functionality to them. They also have medicinal benefits. They're not just delicious mushrooms. They're nutritionally dense. They're full of beta glucans, polysaccharides that bring their medicinal properties about. Some are higher than others. Then you have the medicinals or functional mushrooms, which I believe fall into that category because their functionality and also because they're just not delicious to eat. So you find something like chaga or reishi, which are both powerhouses, but they're incredibly bitter and not fun to eat. So they would fall under that category. You can treat both. As you mentioned earlier, lion's mane is one that would fall under both categories. Certain oysters would fall under both categories, chanterelles, um, etc. So yeah, that's primarily the difference. The gourmets are ones that are absolutely fun to eat. Functionals, typically you would produce something like a tincture, consume them in tea, capsules,
Fair.
something like that. Yeah.
That's awesome. Awesome. Yeah, I feel like I got a soup one time when I was in New York and it had reishi in it. And I was like, I've never seen that before. Just knowing what, like Ganoderma in general is usually kind of like, I feel like leathery or, tough. And I was eating the soup and it was honestly just not the greatest. you know, uh,
In flavor or texture?
I feel like more so just kind of like texture. It felt like it was chewing, I was almost chewing like rubber. The flavor of the broth was great, and I feel like with it, it had like a few varieties of mushrooms in it, and everything was great. But I feel like just eating the reishi itself, I saw that it was even like, because if you eat it, you're gonna want to eat like the fresh part that's still growing, from what I've heard, and that makes sense because that would be the most tender part.
Sure,
So it seemed like it was, but even being at like its most tender, it was still, not necessarily enjoyable.
sure, sure.
Um, yeah, so it's like, just because it can be done doesn't mean that it should be done.
Yeah, yeah, it could be a cultural thing. Maybe in some other countries they appreciate those textures a little bit better.
Yeah,
As
well, I
like
don't
good
say
as like
necessarily say should, like, yeah, absolutely. Sorry to,
no, it's no, no, no. So you're absolutely right. Like it could be one of those things where it may be better in a capsule rather than putting it in your soup.
but either
It's
way, I think, it's still giving the nutritional benefits, and, still, I still ate it all anyways. It's not like I threw it away. I'm not like, I really have to like dislike a food to throw it away.
yeah, yeah. Super thoughtful to put that
Um,
in there though. To put some sort of it just like you're getting the benefits of that mushroom in the soup.
Agreed for sure. What got you into cultivation?
I was drawn to cultivation so that I can have a better understanding of how these organisms function on a personal level. Um, I think it's really cool to be able to grow your own food. I first started with plants and herbs, just a garden in my grandparents' backyard, and then just the natural progression led towards mushrooms. Again, it was like an availability thing, and mushrooms have such a small window of time when they're perfect, and um, they're also quite expensive if you're purchasing um, mushrooms at the farmers market compared to other
Absolutely.
foods. They're definitely like a high quality, high demand product, um, and that's something that's just always drawn me towards them. It's just the exclusivity of them, I guess.
I noticed how, earlier you mentioned how, some people are just afraid of mushrooms, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or, I feel like the intimidation of just the unknown. What are some tips and tricks, maybe a piece of advice that you could give somebody that's looking to get into the culinary aspect of mushrooms?
I would say um, watch some videos online, watch some YouTube videos online, watch some chefs prepare the mushrooms, do a little bit of reading. But also don't be afraid to just jump in and make some mistakes with them. Um, if you have an understanding of just how to saute some veggies, or if you just don't have an understanding of it at all, again, I recommend watching some videos on Instagram or YouTube of people that are preparing the mushrooms a little bit beforehand, so that way you can just understand what you're getting yourself into when you get there. But also, just like as a rule of thumb for most fresh mushrooms, just sauteed with a little bit of fat and salt is perfect. And they're always going to be absolutely delicious like that. Don't be afraid to make some mistakes, but just get in there and start cooking them. You're going to figure out a way to find them very enjoyable, and you're going to want to put them into your daily diet.
Heck yeah, it's like, I feel like if butter or duct tape doesn't fix it, it's probably broken.
Right. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, butter is definitely one of my favorite fats to cook mushrooms with. It's really no wrong way to cook them like that. Oh, okay, so here's an interesting tip for folks. Since we're on the topic, um, you typically will add fat in the beginning of a cooking process to get some color on food. Um, Many folks will tell you to not add fat in the beginning for mushrooms because they're going to draw out so much moisture in the beginning. You want to like cook that moisture down and evaporate it, and then like on the end you throw in your fat to brown it
Oh,
to get some crisp to it. Um, I like adding a little bit of fat in the pan just to not cook something that's completely dry. It kind of sometimes will create like a little bit of a char or a burn on the mushroom if you have the heat a little bit too high. But the way to go is like a very low heat, throw your mushrooms in, it's going to exude the majority of its moisture in the beginning and allow all that liquid to concentrate back in. So it's like you're extracting the flavor and concentrating it, and then just hit it with a good amount of fat. If you don't do animal fats, olive oil is absolutely amazing for it. Coconut oil is nice too. If you don't mind a little bit of the coconut flavor, olive oil is great. But in my opinion, animal fats take incredibly well to mushrooms. If you have some beef fat or pork fat, bacon fat, anything like that laying around, if not, butter is like crazy good. Just
Have
those few
you
ingredients, and you'll have an absolutely delicious plate of mushrooms in front of you.
have you ever you ever see the video where the guy basically makes like a lion's mane steak?
Yeah, yeah, like pressing it.
Have you ever done that before? Have you ever
I've
tried to
done that
make that?
before. I've had some fun with lion's mane. I've done lion's mane a few different ways. But yeah, it's basically like how you would cook like a skirt steak or like a steak on the grill on the a la plancha on the flat top. It's basically just putting the weight on it. You can see that done as well with oyster mushrooms. You can actually cook an entire cluster without taking them off and
Uh,
press it. And the moisture that comes out will allow it to like to steam and then flatten. And then with the fat, it chars up so nice. I had some family over a day when I was just grilling steaks. I just so happened to have been growing some blue oysters, and I did that for them, and they absolutely loved it. And these were some of those folks that were kind of iffy about mushrooms, and they really took to it. If you can char them, if you can get some really nice color on them, grill them, they come out great. I've also recently have been experimenting more so with salting mushrooms. Um, if you salt them, if you notice, like when you harvest mushrooms, they're very dry on the outside. Um, if you salt them as you would a steak or a protein, anything like that, and you leave them for a few minutes, their moisture is going to start coming out on their own, and they become a little bit more limp. Um, and that's a great opportunity for you to season them with some olive oil, like marinate them like that, and throw them right on the grill. It'll char up like octopus or squid, like something like that. It has so
mm.
much texture, and all those little like nooks and crannies and crevices allow for like tremendous texture and charring for it to build up when you cook with it on the grill. That's a really other nice way to cook your mushrooms if you salt them a little bit first. It
When
sounds
you're salting, is
counterintuitive,
that the
yeah.
thing? Is that what you're doing when you? I'm sorry to just cut you off.
No, you're good. You're
Is that
good.
when you like when I saw you put the mushrooms in the bag, add a certain percentage of salt, vacuum seal it, and
So
then it like the pull or the salt was pulling the liquid from the mushrooms?
that's the same exact process. I did a 3% salt for that because I'm actually drying the mushrooms to turn them into uh, like a salted dried material. And I'm
Hmm.
trying to mimic and recreate like the flavor of salted dried scallops and shrimp. But that process, that would be way too much salt um, for the process that I'm explaining uh, for just cooking them on the grill. You don't want to add that much salt.
Okay.
It's just enough to pull it out or like enough to season it. What I was doing with those mushrooms that you saw was a certain amount of weight to salt the mushrooms and to potentially like ferment them at room temperature, something called lacto fermentation. Just like
Okay.
your salt, yeah, that's usually applied to veggies and fruit and stuff like that. Kimchi is a good example of that.
The first time I heard about that was from Uncle Fungus.
Kimchi?
Just like the lacto fermentation and
Oh,
all of
nice.
that.
Have you
I feel
tried
like this
any
is the
of
second
his
time I
products?
mentioned him, but that guy is a wizard when it comes to all the gourmets and cooking as well.
That's awesome. Have you tried any of his products?
Yeah, so I have like a lot of his salts, and I've tried his hot sauces.
How are they?
He actually, yeah, got like a little black trumpet kimchi. He was like, he sent me one, and I was like, thank you. I bought it, but I was like, could I potentially buy it? And he sent me some, and it was delicious. So the
Nice.
man knows what he's doing, behind the camera and behind the stove.
That's awesome. It's really inspiring to hear that there are, people out there experimenting with mushrooms and finding other ways to really enjoy them and sending them out to the community too, because it's important for us to build these
100%.
relationships with people that are doing these really cool things and talking to them one on one. It's great to share these ideas and know that there's so many different uses for us to use our mushrooms.
Right. And there's different, yeah, I feel like there's like a mushroom that'll feed you, there's a mushroom that'll, feed your mind. There's a mushroom that'll kill you,
Yeah,
and, everything in between. I feel like there's so many different kinds. It's so awesome. And it's just outside of even, I feel like necessarily they don't necessarily even have to be edible per se, right?
Hmm.
It's just, some of them just look super cool and grow. It's like
I,
wow, it's the living largest living organism on the planet.
yeah,
I couldn't not believe.
I made a friend recently that is now growing a certain amount of his reishi specifically just for art purposes because they just look so amazing,
I
you know.
recently saw
So
some guy. He has like they were making earrings
yeah, like
with the little
those dope ones you're
antlers.
wearing, like those dope ones you're wearing there too.
Yeah, hey, yeah, no,
Yeah,
thanks, man. Gotta switch up the earring every now and then.
yeah, there you go.
But that's something I would definitely be interested in for sure.
In cultivating for art, or like artistic purposes.
Well, the earring as well as like cultivating for, that's cool. Multi-use, right? Cultivating
Hmm.
for art and whatever you don't use, you could also then make into like supplements or, do what, like, because gosh, there's so many different kinds of mushrooms, so many different uses, and being able to like, have you ever seen the people who put, they kind of put it in like resin almost and then
Hmm.
encapsulate like I think I might have a pendant in my bedroom somewhere of something similar to that. I think that's also pretty cool. For sure. Art, man, art lasts for as long as you want it to last, right?
Yeah. Hey, and on that point, fermentation is a great way to make things last a lot longer, and preservation. Um, One of the like biggest fears that we have as cultivators and business owners, right, is loss of product, margin losses, like,
Absolutely,
you
the,
know.
the big old contamination
Hmm.
and then that happens in everything.
Yeah, and their shelf life when they're fresh is very short. And there's a lot of cultivators that are growing gourmets, and they're having a difficult time selling their product because the window is so small. And then what happens to your product after you're done at the farmer's market and they've been sitting out for a few hours? People don't
Looking
like the
rough.
way that they look rough, but they perform perfectly.
Yeah.
Um, I want to raise an awareness to cultivators out there that are growing gourmets that there are methods out there aside from simply dehydrating that you can take prior to the dehydration process that can increase the value of the product that you're no longer going to sell fresh. You can actually like increase your margins. You can develop like a higher margin product by developing a value added product that isn't fresh. And that oftentimes is through fermentation, salting, developing a product like the coffee, for example, that relies on dried mushrooms to develop.
If somebody wanted to learn how, where did you get started off of, learning the I guess the salting process? Is that what it's called?
Yeah,
Or is
salting.
there, a proper term specifically
No,
fermentation?
that's pretty much it. I think it's just, reading, just becoming familiar with the process and applying it to mushrooms. Again, it's like
There.
YouTube University, finding some books. This is a great book that I have, Salts. This is another really good one, The Art of Fermentation. If you could just familiarize yourself with some of these concepts and uh, the process that's occurring, you'll be able to apply it to some of the stuff that you're doing. I'm also available to anybody out there that would like to receive some consultation or just have a conversation about food and the potential capabilities of what they cultivate if they're not simply dehydrating or selling fresh.
You know, so thank you. And you can find him, or, Nick at Red Flower Fungi, right? And is that your Instagram handle as well?
Yep, yep, yep. Red flower fungi. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
me. And
Well,
then
at
you can
sign
also,
Red
yep, I
Flower
also have,
Fungi.
yeah, that's it there. And then, yeah, and also Leoncito Cafecito, you can reach out to me there also on Instagram. Make sure to have all that information on here.
Well, we'll throw that on the episode details and all that stuff as well. So on your shirt, I noticed there's a little magic word. Uh,
Then why don't you get, can you show it? Can you show it? I got mine here.
here's
So
his
here, I'll slide.
little shirt. It's beautiful.
Yeah, thank you, man. Get that.
Uh,
But yeah, so
so let's maybe talk a little bit about that, right?
yes,
It's not necessarily gourmet, I would say.
no, but this where most people focus on so this mushroom right here, right? It's psilocybe cubensis. That's what we're referring to. Breaks down in two words, right? You got psilocybe, and it's usually the word that most people like to pay most attention to, which is referring to the active that's found in the magic mushroom, psilocybin. I like to focus on the second word, cubensis, because it just applies so much more to me and what it means to be. Cubensis means coming from Cuba. So this mushroom, um, part of its story, one of its origin stories takes place in Cuba when it was discovered there in the earlier in the 1900s by some mycologist named Sumner Earle, who discovered it there and then sent it off. It's typically named after things like cannabis indica, which means that it comes from India. Most people focus on the first part. Um, or like avocado, Persea americana. Americana is where it comes from. So cubensis means of having Cuban origin. So this is like my homage to my roots. If you see the mushroom is wearing a guayabera, which is the like traditional agricultural shirt that people wear in Cuba, and it has the bananas and the sugar cane growing in the back. And I've read that and with a beautiful spore print behind it. Um, I've read that you can find psilocybe cubensis growing in Cuba and sugarcane plantations. They love the sugarcane. They apparently have like a symbiotic relationship um, with the plants there. So yeah, I love most things that are Cuban in regards to like my marketing and my branding. So that's kind of my homage to get people that are a little bit disconnected from the mushrooms to see something that's very familiar: bananas, the coffee, the sugar cane, stuff like that. So that's what cubensis
Kind
is
of
for me.
bringing home to some, also bringing new experiences to home, right?
Yeah.
Making you feel warm, making you feel, welcome. And then obviously, well, s- different cultures have, or even just like age groups are not necessarily, they don't necessarily agree with, some of the things, right?
Hmm.
So I feel like that's a cool way for you to,
The shirt has
do
been a
that.
tremendous, yeah, the shirt has been a tremendous icebreaker and talking point, specifically because of the guayabera. And people identify that, they see it on the shirt, and then they're like, well, what does that mean? What does it have anything to do with Cuba? And I bring that up. And one of the points that I would like to make is that, there's a lot of research going on currently for post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, and a lot of what psilocybin can do in that regard, and for people that are struggling in that area. And this is also an homage to the people that have left their country and have left their family behind and no longer have access, um, to their roots because of whatever political situation is going on. There's something called um, uh, what is it? Root shock. It's like when you pull a plant out abruptly and you put it in a new area, it's going to be sad and wilted for quite a while. Its root system is literally left behind, and it's put in a foreign in a foreign place so that it can expand, and it will. But oftentimes, it's not the same. And I know that there's a lot of Cubans out there that are struggling with that, specifically people in my generation um, that are growing up here and dealing with stuff like that. So this is a tremendous icebreaker for anybody who would like to talk to their family about how cubensis mushrooms specifically can help with people that are struggling with post-traumatic stress.
I wanted to actually, actually go back to that. So, the with the PTSD, helping with, just, there are studies doing, just helping with the addiction of nicotine. So many studies of, like, honestly, for a lot of different mental disorders. I wanted to, or like, I wouldn't say necessarily disorders, right? But like just mental health that needs, a little like guidance, right? Um,
That's
but I
probably a
also
good
wanted
word
to
for
add,
it.
like, maybe mention, bring in something about bring the functional back. Um, as far as, so you struggle with chronic pain, fatigue, and, digestive issues. How have you used, the plant and fungi medicine to, cope with some of that?
That's yeah. I haven't really spoken too much publicly about my ailments. It's something that um, is a very big part of my life, and it's something that I am looking forward to sharing with folks. I have chronic and chronic pain and fatigue syndrome, and a form of arthritis and debilitating digestive issues that I've struggled with the majority of my life. And that's actually one of the reasons that I got into food, is so that I can understand what I can consume best, and how it works with me. The plants have been fantastic in helping me uh, with my mind, specifically cannabis has helped me just like think more uh, presently, if that makes any sense. Just like be more present, to think more intentionally. There's also tremendous digestive benefits from consuming the plants and making my own medicine. Um, the mushrooms also are supposed to help you um, with your immune system, specifically turkey tail. And there's a lot of other benefits there from various other mushrooms. Um, that's that's pretty much the way that they've been helping me. So the 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 extractions are also playing a tremendous role in the way that they've been making me feel lately, which is something that I've just started experimenting with lately, specifically lion's mane and cordyceps. For somebody who wakes up and feels like their gas tank is kind of low already, supplementing with cordyceps has been a tremendous way to ignite the day and get some stuff going. Specifically, performance fungi. I've had some stuff from over there. Some friends
Shout out
from
Performance Fungi for the
yeah,
lion's mane and cordyceps
yeah,
extracts.
yeah,
Extracts.
yeah,
That was
yeah,
unplanned, guys. That was unplanned.
yeah. I had a feeling those were the ones you were gonna pull out. I've been doing some R&D with their products as well. I've been trying to get my hands on some bulk. Hopefully, it'll happen soon. Their products are palpable. These extracts are palpable. You can actually feel them functioning shortly
For
after you take
sure.
them. Yeah,
They're
yeah,
so, I've had many extracts, and this one is, like you can feel it, you can taste it, how well done it is, and how much product they're actually using.
yep, yeah. They're potty. They're potty for sure. And it's something that you can tell when you don't, a couple days off when you don't take them. It's just the problem solving abilities are tremendous with them. But I really enjoy the way that the cordyceps makes me feel. It gives me like a little bit more vigor. Um, in regards to pain management, I haven't found anything on the mushroom side of things aside from, I can say that during a psychoactive experience with certain mushrooms, during that amount of time while I'm under, the pain seems to disappear. uh, Flexibility increases, a lot more movement increases. Um, I can't really explain why that's happening. I know that cannabis has that effect, and it works tremendously for that. But I haven't found any mushrooms aside from those short moments during psychoactive experiences where pain seems to diminish for a while.
Well, I feel that's really cool that you're even able to get, that little break from it. I guess try to be a glass half full kind of guy, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Anything is better
yeah.
than nothing.
I think one of the best things for the pain is just making sure that you're in a good mood, and microdosing is great for that. So things that work directly with the pain, I don't know, but the big thing is just mood stabilization, and making sure make sure you feel good. Because if you are going to be in discomfort, you should be in a good mood. It affects, you should try to put yourself in a good mood. It affects the way that you interact with people. Sometimes people don't uh, give you the best response. It's oftentimes because they're struggling with something, or they're hurting, or they're tired. It may not be just they want to be an asshole
Yeah,
with you.
absolutely, right? Yeah, everybody lives their life, so it's like, just somebody may just be having a bad day, and it
Yeah,
may not, it could not be you, or, somebody's. there's so many different variables to this whole life thing, and and we're all just kind of living it, right?
For
Just
sure.
having fun and trying to be the best we can be, I'd say.
We're all trying to figure it out in our own ways, and then hopefully sharing those tips that we figured out for ourselves and sharing it with other people.
Speaking of figuring out, man, I don't mean to, switch a topic on you, but yeah, I feel after, after trying your cooking, feel like I need to know everything about what you do behind the kitchen. I feel like what are some favorite ways of yours to, I guess, cook fungus, right? And even, we spoke about how, where we should learn, but now also, like, what are some ways that you really enjoy throwing down, or little secrets? You don't have to give all your secrets.
No, I'm an open book. I want to give you guys the sauce so that you guys can make it and show me what to do with it next. 'Cause that's the way we can, you know what
We
I'm
work
saying? If I could,
together
yeah, if
like
I keep the,
mycelium,
if
we network.
yeah, absolutely. Man, I love, so look, I have some little pink oysters right here. These are dry. I would hydrate them in water. Let's say I want to make a really nice condiment. I would hydrate them in water, hot water. Uh, Once they're soft, put them in a bowl, put a little bit of maybe tamari or soy sauce and rice vinegar on them. Um, Mix them around and leave them like that. They're like you're just gonna want to keep eating them and eating them and eating them and eating them. And it's such an easy way. It sounds like I'm giving you a bullshit recipe, but it's always a hitter. It's always a banger. And it's one of those things that you add to every bite that you take. Think of like when you're having Korean food or Mexican food. You know, it always comes with something on the side, like a little pickle, a little crunch. You
Mm-hmm.
get that. So when I cook mushrooms, I kind of want to hit all the areas, right? I want to get like the umami, the salty, a little bit of sweet sometimes. Um, I really like grilling them. I like sautéing them. I like frying them a lot. So if you season them first, so they get kind of moist, as I mentioned earlier, like they get a little soft. Put them through like a tempura mix, just like flour in a bowl and a little bit of sparkling water until it gets to like pancake consistency.
Mm-hmm.
Dip those in and then go straight into like a 360-degree oil for just a couple minutes. They're so damn good. You get out, just hit them with a little bit of sauce and put them in your favorite dip. They're absolutely delicious like that. Man, you can cook mushrooms so many ways. Right now, I'm experimenting with making like umami sauces. It's basically just salting them and preserving them and cooking them down and playing like with their like natural liquids. Oh, one of the single best recipes that I could ever recommend for somebody is a ceviche. Uh,
Oh,
Peruvian
really? A ceviche?
Peruvian style ceviche. For those of you that don't know, ceviche is typically like raw seafood. It's raw fish that is then mixed with a large amount of lemon juice that like cooks it. Um, it's a raw dish, but it's just allowed to like marinate in there, and then it's mixed with like cilantro and onions and garlic, chilies. Um, so oysters make the best. Oyster mushrooms make the best for ceviche. It's even in the name, right? It kind of leads you in that direction. So I would just get some like salted water, cut your oyster mushrooms into edible
Like, you
segments,
could
right?
make this like a vegan ceviche
It
almost.
is, it is, it is, and it's even like it's
Wow, that's
the
cool.
experience. This is one of those vegan dishes that makes sense in regards to calling it what it is still.
Mm-hmm.
Texturally and flavor wise, if I blindfolded you, you couldn't know the difference. You wouldn't. You wouldn't. Texturally, it's there. Flavor wise, it's there. It's not like one of those things where you get a cauliflower and grate it and you call it a pizza, you know, which is delicious. I would just enjoy it more if you didn't call it a pizza type thing.
There.
So, uh,
But
yeah,
that's very cool. Wow.
yeah.
Gosh, man. So,
There's so many really good ways to cook mushrooms. Also, a really fun way to do them is just try to recreate some of the dishes that you typically have with, something like fish or chicken or beef,
one time
for that
I
matter.
made I feel that, man. I made a It was a vegan chicken parm. It was with chicken of the woods mushroom
Nice.
instead, and it was delicious. It's still there's something about in chicken parm. I feel like the cheese makes the chicken taste completely different than it would normally. It could be just the whole entire thing. I don't even know. But when it's like even like any kind of parm, eggplant parm, it's like those two cheese and whatever and breading.
Yeah, yeah, it's a winner for sure. It's always going to be delicious that way.
Yeah, man. Well, gosh, I feel we've talked about so much. I don't know. I'm kind of all questioned out right now. Uh,
Can I ask you a question real quick?
yeah, yeah. Would love for you to ask me a question.
Have you have you ever considered developing a funk straight product for gourmets?
Yeah, I have, and
Okay.
yeah. So, if those of you who don't know, I am the owner and operator of Fung Straight. I don't think I've even mentioned that on the podcast yet. And yeah, we are just doing the thing and getting in, doing some episodes of friends and learning about them out in and outside of mycology. But yes, I have. So I guess it's more so just the fact of doing it. I've made some hardwood substrate bags before, and I'm also even thinking about doing some all-in-one grow bags with a cocoa-based substrate as well for your gourmet needs. And yeah, I think this year is the year that I'm going to drop some new and exciting stuff. As far as just mycology in general and content, and 100%. And it's already the wheels are already going. But
Nice.
that was a good question.
Nice. Very cool. Yeah, I think that would be great.
Um, yeah, I mean, so you know, it's been wonderful having you on this episode of Fungcast. It's been great, just talking to you, getting a little bit of a little bit about you, why you enjoy mycology, cooking, and just life in general, right? I feel like I would like to ask you one more question just to kind of, you know, uh, finish it off. And that question would be, I just had a brain fart. So honestly, um, gosh,
It's
I
not what
totally
my favorite. It's
forgot.
not what's my favorite mushroom, is it?
Well, it could be. It could be. um, no. Well, what I was going to ask you was something, and it just completely,
That's all good, man. We can.
it's just like poofed out of my mind. I'm so sorry. I feel bad.
That happened to me like three times during this conversation. I tried not to let the train go off the tracks, so we're
No, it's
good.
okay. But Nick, it's been wonderful having you on the episode. And I can't wait to speak to you, later on. We're buddies at at that point. But
Yeah, man, you're the homie. Yeah.
it's been just great getting to know you. And oh, I remember the question. I feel like this is good. This is good. So what do you like to do outside of cooking and mycology as like just a human being? Because I feel like a lot of us people, are just we just get known for mushrooms and then that's it. It's like, what are some things that you like doing?
I really enjoy gardening. I enjoy being in the garden quite a bit. It's my like most peaceful place. I really enjoy spending time with my family quite a bit. We cook together. If I'm not in the lab, I'm in the kitchen. If I'm not in the kitchen, I'm in the garden. If I'm not in the garden, I'm in the lab. I'm not in the lab, you know. So it's
I
like
love it.
it's happening like that. I'll do some fishing every once in a while. Um, but yeah, man, that's pretty much it. That's my area. That's what I like to do.
That's awesome, man. Well,
Yeah.
it's been great talking to you.
You as well, man. I hope to do
And
this again sometime.
thanks for coming on the second episode of Funcast. And you're a wonderful person. Wish you nothing but the best, bro.
Thanks, buddy. I love you very much, dude. It's always a pleasure to chat with you.
Love you too, bud. Much love. Talk to you later.